Right now in Western Australia, almost 100,000 children live in poverty. What we're here in Canberra to do is to say to the Government of Australia that that's not good enough. There are simple things that we need to do that will make a real difference to the lives of those people and communities.
All right, Mark, so what are we doing this week? Where are we?
We're in Canberra, we're at Parliament House right now, and we're attending a series of meetings with elected members and their advisors to promote the interests of the people that we work with, so people who are facing vulnerability and challenges in their lives, to ensure that they're not left off the national agenda.
And what are some of the things that we're trying to put in front of these policy advisors and MPs?
Well, the first and the most important one is that we need to raise the rate. The level of income support for people who aren't in work is woefully inadequate. It's a poverty trap, and we really need to be better than that. So for us, the first thing on the agenda is what do we need to do to raise the rate. Then we're going to talk about things like family domestic violence, housing, general cost of living pressures, and Aboriginal justice and recognition. These are all important things if we are to have live in a Western Australia where everyone can thrive, but also more broadly across the country.
A lot of the people that have our portfolios to community, family domestic violence, early years, young people, women, they're not based in Western Australia. So a lot of them are East Coast based, and we need to bring to them what's happening on the ground in WA for community members. So we're bringing to them some of the, particularly around Anglicare WA's innovation projects and breakthrough areas of Sunshine Project, Hopscotch and the Derby Good Life that we've done in partnership with a lot of other agencies that are actually working to enable people to thrive and communities to thrive. So bringing some different ways of working to the ministers and also a range of social policy areas and structurally what we need to do in terms of responding to family domestic violence, the housing issues and raising that rate of job seeker so that we've got a decent safety net. And in summary, rebuilding and re-establishing the social compact.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's really important that we recognise that the economy is strong, but the economy exists to serve a purpose, and that is the well-being of the people of our country. And so you can have the strongest economy in the world, but if it doesn't meet the needs of the whole community. So what we're saying is having a productivity and an economic roundtable is really, really important. Great, but unless it transfers, the outcomes of that transfer to every Australian, we're not really achieving much at all. We're just spinning our wheels. So for us, it's about vulnerability and disadvantage, and how do we address those things? How do we put the strength of our economy to that purpose?
Mm-hmm. And we're here in a bit of collaboration with WACOS. Could you tell me a little bit about WACOS and your role with them?
The WACOS vision is for a Western Australia that is just, inclusive and equitable, which is, you can see some parallels with what we do. My role at WACOS is the president. I'm completing my 4th year as president of WACOS, and we think that the alignment of a peak body which speaks for the sector and for the community aligns really well with Anglicare WA, because we have our feet on the ground and we can deliver the services. So our policy and our advocacy work really well when we're able to bring the on-the-ground experience, and WACOS brings the policy frameworks. I think it works really well. We were here last year. It was a very successful visit before the federal election, and we're sort of following up now to see what we can get done.
I'm the advocacy lead at the WA Council of Social Service. We're the peak body for the community services sector in Western Australia. We do an annual cost of living survey, and that's been showing that in Western Australia for a standard family with 2 working parents on the minimum wage actually can't meet their basic costs of living anymore. It's just not enough. So we're sharing those stories, and also we've done some really important research around gender equity, because WA has got the biggest gender pay gap in the country, and the community services sector, which is got a 78% female workforce, is a big driver. Was one of the big factors as to why we have this.
G'day, my name's Brodie. I'm the CEO of Great Southern Community Legal and part of Community Legal Western Australia. This is my colleague Celia.
From Circle Green Community Legal.
We're talking with members and staff. We're coming together as a part of the national conference to meet, share ideas, see what's happening around the country in the social justice space, see how we can advance access to justice around the country for people who need our help. Community legal centres help a whole range of Australians, I think 180,000 people per year around the country. We're talking with members here, partly because there's 360,000 people we expect every year that try and get our services that can't. So we're not helping enough people.
And I'd just add to that the important role that community legal centres play in lobbying for law reform and systems change. And it's really critical for a voice to come through to Parliament to better understand how we can improve that access to justice for all. Because without access to justice for everybody, really it's access to justice for none. I love Canberra, love coming here to Parliament. It's really great to be able to meet people and explore, and the cafes and restaurants are phenomenal. So really nice to be in Canberra.
To be honest, I'm really excited to be somewhere that's colder than home. Not common. I love it. I moved to Albany because Perth was too hot.
Yeah.
I love Canberra because it's colder again.
Canberra's cold. I tell you, it's a bit brisk this morning.
It's a bit nippy.
I'm spending time with you, Ryan and Mark and Rebecca and all the team.
But the coffee and the food's excellent, and it's just exciting to be in Parliament House. There's such a buzz, and you can, just to see all the people coming from around Australia to come and give a voice to people, to our politicians. It's just fun to be a part of it. We're very lucky.
And catching up with colleagues nationally. I think it's really great for us being from the West to come over and actually have a look and talk, 100%. Showcase what we do well, but also learn from other centres around what we can take home.
Absolutely.
Could you tell me a bit about your role as President of the Senate and what that entails?
Yep. So there's a number of elements. Obviously, when I'm here in the Parliament, my job is to manage and chair the Senate. And so I would open the Parliament in the morning. I always do question time. And then I will do some of the other formal parts of the day and generally close the Senate at night. So that's the kind of parliamentary Senate role. And then in addition to that, as the President of the Senate, I have a soft diplomacy role. So I meet delegations from other countries. So I've just met with Kiribati, and I would lead delegations overseas as well. Every day is different in the Senate. Sometimes you never know what's going to happen, because one of the interesting things about the Senate is that unlike the House, where the government has the numbers, it has 94 seats, so it has a clear majority. In the Senate, governments very rarely have the majority. And so that means every single thing we do in the Senate is a negotiation, from what time we sit to what bills we deal with is always a negotiation. And so that makes the Senate very dynamic, because mostly we get agreement on standard issues, but on bills we don't always get agreement. And so it's just a matter of chipping away. Those negotiations are obviously done by the government. As the President, I am apolitical in the chair. although I do have a vote in the same way that every other senator has a vote. But so it's always dynamic, and question time can sometimes be super quiet, or sometimes it can be super rowdy.
And when it is rowdy, do you have particular ways of getting it back on track and getting good discussion happening?
I try my very best. I would say that I'm not always successful, but I'm very determined. And I take my role as president very seriously. I take my role in managing the behaviour in the chamber very seriously. So I'm very on message when I'm in the Senate to make sure that it doesn't get too rowdy. And we have different rules. So in the House, for example, the Speaker can eject people under a rule. We don't have that rule in the Senate. The Senate can make a decision as a whole to eject a person, but that's taken very seriously, and it's not something we use a lot. So it does rely on me trying to appeal to a person's better half, or to simply tell them they're being really disrespectful. So yeah.
And how's the sitting week been so far for you?
Well, I'm really pleased that we've delivered on some of the cost of living measures. So in the first sitting, we did the HECS relief bill, so giving young students, or every student, 20% off their HECS debt. And then yesterday we did the cheaper medicines, so that's through the Parliament, so that guarantees people when they get their script filled that they don't pay any more than $25. So it's really good to see the commitments we made during the election now coming into law, and Australians starting to see the benefit of that.
And what are some of the other priorities that you guys have going forward, particularly around the community sector and some of the social issues that we're facing at the moment?
So this week we're trying to land the aged care bill, which is quite tricky at the moment. We're not quite there yet, but we've been told that the opposition will honour the dates we've given. So there's that, and we will continue with our cost of living commitments, particularly around Medicare, urgent care clinics, the mental health clinics that we've committed to, the hospital improvements, all of the sorts of cost of living frameworks that we committed to during the election will start to be rolled out. I think we want to make this a fair place, a place where people do get a fair go, where we support people who need a hand, and to be able to provide good infrastructure, whether that's health or education, or through the NDIS, through roads and infrastructure, just looking to make our communities really flourish because they've got good support systems. I guess as a West Australian, one of the pieces of infrastructure I'm most proud of is our rail and bus integrated network. I mean, we really are putting rail where communities live.
And on the social infrastructure side, what's the sort of vision there as well?
To make it fair, to make sure that regardless of where you live, that a postcode doesn't determine your outcome, that you have the same opportunity as someone else. And we want to see that fairness. And then that sometimes means that people need more of a hand than others. But I'm very committed to this concept of fairness and of making sure that everyone gets a good start in life. And so that is by providing services where they're needed and boosting them up where they're needed. That is the role of government, is to make sure that our communities are safe, that they're good communities with good facilities and places where people can enjoy and live their lives.
There you go. That's Deb. That's Deb.
Yeah. She's been here.
All right, Deborah. We've had two big days. What do you want to say about them? What have we done? What have we achieved?
I think we've achieved more than I expected, because we got a lot of last-minute bookings with ministers and opportunities to speak to advisors, which was fantastic. And what I really thought was a really good outcome is that we had the opportunity to talk about the issues, but also the solutions that are working in Western Australia, and bringing to them a bit more of an understanding about what's happening on the ground across our state for community.
I think it's been a valuable trip. I think that we've had the opportunity to represent Western Australian interests well. I think that we've been able to highlight the experience of people facing vulnerability and disadvantage across all of our service systems. And I think that we've had a good hearing. So overall, quite good.
What have been some of the key asks and policies that we've been advocating for whilst we're here?
Well, I think the first thing that we've talked about quite a bit is the social compact. Like what is it that we should expect from our government, and why is that important to ask that question? And we did that reflecting on the rallies, the anti-immigration rallies that took place over the last week, and led us to think about, well, what is it that a government should be delivering for a community, and what is our role in that? So I think that was really important. I think we spoke about income support, economic justice. I think they were important things to talk about. The outcome of those discussions was not always positive, but I think it's important that we continue to raise those issues.
So we had a lot of people really interested in Anglicare WA's relational practice work, such as our Sunshine Project, Hopscotch, and some work we're doing with the communities in Derby, and our youth foyer service that we've got in Leederville in WA. So they're really open to looking at ways that we can do things differently, that work with families and community members that are place-based, and more from a coaching perspective rather than case management or casework. So government and advisors were really interested in that.
We also spent some time talking about family and domestic violence and responses to that, particularly how we're going to respond to men, young men in particular, and that was valuable as well.
It's been fantastic. I'm at the tail end and I'm slightly weary, but it's been really encouraging. This is my first trip as part of this delegation. We shared a lot of stories around our work around early childhood, family and domestic violence, and also some of the insights that we got on our trip to Kununurra last week. And, that perspective of people living in remote Australia was really valued here because, obviously politicians, especially ministers, are very busy people. They don't often get a lot of time to go and travel and see on the ground what is happening in those communities, the things that are working, the things that could do with some fixing. And so it was great to be able to share those experiences with our federal politicians and their staff.
More generally, how important are the relationships that we've been developing with policymakers in these last few days?
Oh, really important. I think that because they're only so new into their term, so all ministers, advisors are only a few months in, certainly only a few sitting weeks in. So it's been really good to, one, establish relationships with members and advisors, getting them to understand what the reality is in Western Australia, openness to our ideas and solutions, and then inviting them to, whenever they are in Western Australia, to come and look and come and see what we're doing on the ground, what works, what are our learnings, and how that might apply in other places in Australia.
So I would hope that over the next year or two that some of those invitations are accepted and people come and have a look at the good work that we're doing. This is a long and slow process, introducing new ideas, getting them accepted, getting enough momentum behind system change is not something that you can achieve in one visit, but I think the visit lays another plank in the path for change. And so I think that we've had a really good hearing, and we'll see the benefit, but it'll take some time.
So what's next for our advocacy work? What are we going to be doing looking forward?
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of work to be done around cost of living and housing. Also looking at those key drivers of family and domestic violence, looking at, how do we change the narrative around gender stereotypes, gender equity, and that condoning of violence, and how are we steering away from that and back to the Australia of a fair go, people being kind, and people being respectful, and enabling having that safety net. So looking at how do we keep facilitating those options, and when people are visiting us in the West, giving that to them to use.
And outside of the politics, how have you felt the trip has gone?
Well, I finally got to meet Sean the prawn, so that was super exciting. I got some parliaments.
Oh.
And it has just been fantastic to meet some really good people and just be around the buzz of Parliament and the buzz of new ideas and be at the centre of a place where there's people from all corners of the country coming and trying to achieve some kind of change or have their voices heard.
We have had a lot of good vibes over here. We've had a lot of good burgers over here. We've had some really good coffee, and we've seen Sean the prawn.
We have indeed had all of those things,
Yeah.
plus a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any favourite moments from the trip?
Oh, look, too many. I think someone on the trip and myself almost stole someone else's coffee, which...
Cannot confirm.
Cannot confirm. And if you were to name half a dozen people in Canberra whose coffee you don't want to steal, it was one of those people. So that was a highlight. That we got through that alive. I also think that just the experience of visiting Parliament and seeing how it works. So that you need to be ready for anything to happen and take advantage of those things. It's sort of like a micro ecosystem here that if you're ready and you've done your work and you're prepared, you just grab opportunities as they come. And there were plenty of those that we didn't anticipate, but they arrived and we took them. I think I look forward to the outcomes of this visit and seeing what really lands. And I'm quietly confident.
Anyway, we appreciate it.
Next time. Okay, no worries.
Thank you.